Your dog has lived with you for years. It knows your schedule. It knows which drawer the treats are in. It knows when you're sad before you do. It has memorized the sound of your specific car pulling into the driveway from 3 streets away. But here's the question nobody actually asks. Does it know what you are? Not who you are, what you are. Does your dog look at you and think, that is a human being, a separate species, a creature fundamentally different from me? Or does it just think, that's my weird tall pack member who can't smell anything and sleeps way too long and somehow controls the food? That question sounds like a joke. It isn't. Because when researchers actually started investigating how animals categorize humans, what they found was so strange and so genuinely unsettling that it forced scientists to rethink some of the most basic assumptions we have about how animal minds work. And the answer, depending on which animal you ask, is completely different, and in some cases, deeply uncomfortable. Let's start with dogs, because dogs are the obvious place to start. We've been living with them for somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years, depending on which study you read. That's not a short relationship. That's longer than agriculture, longer than writing, longer than any other human-animal partnership in history. And in that time, something genuinely strange happened to dogs. At a biological level, dogs evolved specific cognitive abilities that are tuned almost exclusively to humans, not to other dogs. To us. A 2015 study out of Emory University by neuroscientist Gregory Burns put dogs inside MRI machines. Yes, actual MRI machines. They trained them to sit still and scanned their brains while exposing them to different scents. The scent of their owner activated the caudate nucleus, the brain's reward center, the same region that lights up in humans when we see someone we love. The scent of a stranger human activated it less. The scent of other dogs activated it less. The scent of their owner lit it up the most. Which tells you something important. At a neurological level, dogs have built a specific category for their human, not for humans in general, not for their species, for their specific person. But does that mean they know you're a different species? Here's where it gets complicated. Researchers at the University of Vienna ran a series of experiments testing whether dogs understand humans as a distinct species from other animals. What they found was that dogs track human social cues, eye contact, pointing gestures, emotional expressions, in ways they don't track the same signals from other dogs. Think about that. A dog reads a human pointing finger and understands it as directional information. Wolves raised by humans cannot reliably do this. Chimpanzees, our closest genetic relatives, struggle with it. But domestic dogs do it naturally from puppyhood, without any training, which means dogs have developed a specialized cognitive module specifically for reading human communication. They have a humans folder in their brain that is completely separate from their other animals folder. So do they know we're not dogs? Probably, but not the way you know a cat isn't a dog. Not through abstract species classification, through something more practical and more interesting. They know you operate differently, you communicate differently, you smell different, you move differently. You're categorized as a distinct type of social partner with distinct rules and distinct expectations. You are not a dog, but you might not be other either. You might be something your brain has built an entirely separate filing system for, a category of one, human. Now let's talk about cats, because cats are a completely different story, and the answer here is genuinely insulting to us as a species. John Bradshaw is an anthrozoologist at the Bristol University who has spent decades studying cat behavior, and his conclusion about how cats perceive humans is this. Cats think we're large, clumsy, slow cats. Not a separate species, not a higher being, not their owner in any hierarchical sense, just a big weird cat that's bad at jumping and can't clean itself properly. The evidence is in the behavior. Cats greet humans the exact same way they greet other cats they're comfortable with. They slow blink, they headbutt, they push their face into you, they raise their tail vertically as they approach, a feline greeting signal that cats only use with other cats and with humans. Never with dogs, never with any other species. They meow at humans, but almost never at other cats. Researchers believe they developed this vocalization specifically to communicate with us, because we don't understand their normal cat communication signals. They adapted their behavior to bridge the gap. They invented a language for us, because we were too slow to learn theirs, which is simultaneously flattering and humiliating. Your cat looked at you and thought, this large hairless thing doesn't understand anything I'm doing. I'm going to have to dumb this down. And then it invented a communication system specifically for your limitations. You are not the owner in this relationship. You are a large, incompetent cat that your actual cat has taken on as a kind of project. Now let's move to something that should genuinely unsettle you. Crows. We talked earlier about how crows can recognize individual human faces, hold grudges for years, recruit other crows to mob specific people, share reputational information across their social networks, leave gifts for humans who feed them. But here's the part that goes deeper. Crows don't just remember individual humans. They build behavioral profiles of individual humans. They track your patterns. They observe your habits. They make predictions about what you will do next based on what you have done before. In other words, crows model your mind. This is called theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have internal mental states, intentions, beliefs, knowledge that are different from your own. It was once considered uniquely human. Then we found it in great apes, then in dolphins, then in elephants, and then someone tested crows. Researchers at Cambridge found that crows would hide food differently depending on whether another crow had watched them hide it. If they were observed, they would come back later and move the food to a new location when the observer wasn't looking. They understood that the other crow had seen them, had formed a mental model of the hiding location, and might come back to steal it. That's not instinct, that's not a reflex, that's modeling another mind and anticipating its behavior. Now apply that to humans. When a crow watches you, it isn't just registering your presence, the way a security camera registers movement. It is building a model of you, what you do, what you want, whether you are safe or dangerous, whether you are the kind of creature that leaves food or takes it. Does the crow think you are an animal? Almost certainly yes, but probably not the way it thinks about other crows or hawks or squirrels. You are almost certainly filed under a completely separate category, the large, slow ground creatures that control enormous amounts of food and territory, and are unpredictable in ways that require very close monitoring. You are important enough to the crow that it has built an entire cognitive file on you specifically. It knows your face, it knows your schedule, it is watching you right now from a telephone wire, and you have absolutely no idea what it has concluded. Let's talk about dolphins, because the dolphin data is where this gets philosophically strange. Dolphins have demonstrated mirror self-recognition, the ability to look in a mirror and understand that the reflection is themselves. Only a handful of species can do this: great apes, elephants, dolphins, and possibly corvids. It requires a level of self-awareness that most animals don't have. But here's what's more interesting for our question. Dolphins use signature whistles. Each dolphin develops a unique sound that functions essentially as a name. They call each other by name. They remember the names of individuals they haven't seen for 20 years, and in documented cases, they have used the signature whistle of another dolphin when referring to that dolphin to a third party. They talk about each other by name to someone else. Louise Herman at the University of Hawaii spent decades teaching dolphins an artificial language using visual symbols and found that dolphins could not only learn words, but understand grammar. They understood that different word orders created different meanings. They could understand sentences they had never heard before. A dolphin trained in this way was shown a person it had never seen inside a pool. The researcher signed the word person. The dolphin understood this as a category, a type of thing, not this specific individual, but the category of creature standing in front of it. Dolphins appear to have a concept of human as a category, not just this specific tall creature with weird flippers, but the type of thing that is human. That's closer to what we do when we recognize a species than anything else we found in the animal kingdom, which means when a dolphin meets you, it might genuinely understand in some functional sense that you are a human, not a large fish, not a manatee, a human, a specific type of creature with a specific set of characteristics and behavioral tendencies. Whether that understanding resembles what you experience when you recognize another species, that gap we can't cross. We can't get inside a dolphin's mind, but the behavior points in a direction that should make you think. Now, the most interesting case of all, chimpanzees. Chimps share roughly 98.7% of our DNA. They are our closest living relatives, and their relationship with humans is the most complicated of anything we've looked at today. Franz de Waal, the primatologist who spent his career studying chimp social behavior, documented something fascinating. Chimps raised around humans develop what researchers call a bicultural identity. They understand both chimp social rules and human social rules. They can switch between them depending on context. They know which behaviors are appropriate around chimps and which are appropriate around humans, which means chimps that have had significant human contact don't just know that humans exist, they have a working model of human society. They understand hierarchy. They understand that humans use tools differently. They understand that human communication follows different rules. A chimp who has grown up around humans has essentially built a theory of human culture. But here's the darkest part of this whole topic. Chimps that are raised entirely by humans from infancy, what researchers call enculturated chimps, sometimes show signs of not fully recognizing themselves as chimps. When shown photographs of chimps and humans and asked in various behavioral paradigms to sort self from other, some enculturated chimps show confusion about which category they belong to. They know what humans are. They're not entirely sure they aren't one, which takes the original question and flips it completely on its head. We started by asking whether animals think humans are animals, but maybe the more interesting question is what happens when the line between human and animal gets genuinely blurry from the inside. A chimp raised by humans, living with humans, communicating with humans, eating what humans eat, and sleeping where humans sleep. At some point, is it reasonable to ask whether that chimp has a category for itself at all? Here is what all of this actually means when you pull it together. Animals don't think about species the way we do. We have language, we have taxonomy, we have the ability to sit here and say Homo sapiens and Canis lupus familiaris and draw a clean line between them. Animals have something different. They have categories built from experience, from behavior, from social patterns, from what a creature does and how it communicates, and whether it is safe or dangerous or useful or threatening. And by those measures, humans are genuinely strange. We don't fit neatly into any existing category most animals have. We move like a predator, but we don't always act like one. We're social, like a pack animal, but we're enormous, and we smell wrong, and we communicate in ways that don't match anything in the natural world. We show up in places we have no business being, and we do things that make no evolutionary sense. So what does your dog think you are? Probably something close to what you actually are, a specific type of social partner with specific rules and specific value and a specific place in the social world your dog has built in its head. What does the crow on the telephone wire think you are? Something worth watching very carefully. What does the chimp think? Something uncomfortably familiar. And what does your cat think? A large, slow cat that needs a lot of help and can't seem to figure out the basics, which might be the most accurate assessment of all.